Hi, folks. Welcome back. This week we are going to be diving a little bit deeper into charts. So it looked like everybody did really well on last week's chart homework. So I'm happy with that. You looked like everybody figured out how to do both types of pie charts and started playing around with changing the styles. You saw that you can label them, have percentages on them, change the name of the charts. Everybody's homework looked really good. So as to this point, I don't have any concerns about people making progress about charts. But this week, we'll be doing what they call combination charts. So combination charts basically display two data sets that have some sort of relationship. They might intersect, they may not, but you'll be building a couple of these this week. So essentially what you're going to be seeing are either two trend lines or a bar graph and a trend line sort of intersecting each other. So we're going to open this week's homework file. And so the first thing I do is tell you to select the data. So I just went and did our keyboard shortcut, Shift Control down arrow, and then Shift Control over to select our data. Then we're going to go to the Insert tab. And we're going to go to this little area right here called Charts. And if you hover over these different types of charts, they'll tell you what kind they are. So these are all column or bar charts. These are hierarchy charts. Those explain different types of relationships. Waterfall, funnel, stock surface. This is actually the one that I'm looking for. So kind of right in the middle row, far right, insert combo chart. So combo is short for combination. We're going to select that one. And then if you hover over here, there's different types. So sometimes when you just hover over the types of charts, you can tell whether or not they're a good fit for the type of data that you're trying to represent. You can kind of tell that this one isn't really. See, now that one looks a little better. So this one gives us sort of a flat line. That kind of seems weird. This one looks really good though. And this one doesn't seem to make sense either. So this is the one I asked you to select, the clustered column line on secondary axis. So we're going to select that one. So now we've got our chart. From here, we can do a bunch of things. So we can enlarge our chart by using these sort of arrows and corner pieces to drag and expand the chart so you can see it better. Sometimes your charts will need to be bigger in order to fit all of the data. So you have a lot of names across the bottom, and notice not all of them showed up until I made the chart larger. So just be mindful of that on your tests and on your homework. Make the chart as large as it needs to be to display all the information properly. And basically what we're looking at here, if you scroll up and sort of look at our data set, it looks like we're looking at sales representatives, right? So we've got their names across the bottom down here. Then we're looking at the number of units they sold. So we don't know what they're selling, but whatever it is, let's say they're computer salespeople or something. So we're looking at the number of computers they've sold, and that's denoted on this axis here. And then the last thing we're looking at is what date they met their sales target. And that kind of bounces around. So you can see that the dates are actually represented on this axis. So both of these lines represent different sets of data. And it tells you down here which is which. So the orange line represents the date they attained their sales goal. So that's this column of information. And then you can see that the bars, right, units sold, are represented by the blue. So let's see what else we need to figure out for our charts this week. So we know how to pick our chart. We know how to enlarge it. So now we're going to use our design tool, and we want to go to chart style 6. So your design tool is right here. You can always tell whether or not your design tool is highlighted. Once you create a chart, you'll have, oopsie, sorry, that blocked it. Once you have a chart, you'll see two tabs pop up here called design and format. Those will go away if your chart is not selected. So see, I just clicked out of the chart and they left. You have to click onto your chart and then they show up again. So we're going to go up here, and that's style 1. If you hover over them, they say the names just like everything we've done in the past. I'm looking for style 6. So this one's sort of a bold, different style, right? Perfect. So now we've got style 6 selected. What else do we want to do? We want to change the chart title. So we practiced doing that last week. So all we have to do is click on this chart title. It's going to give me a text box, and then I can delete what's in here. And I think I called this something like 5-year sales goal or something. Yes, 5-year sales stats. We've got a typo. Instructors make mistakes too. We'll backspace that. Okay, perfect. So now our chart title has changed. I think the other major thing that we needed to go over that maybe you haven't seen before is this one right here. So change the major grid lines to light green. Okay, so major grid lines. So the grid lines in a graph are these lines here. They're faint and they're gray in this line. So there's one at the 120, one at the 100, one at the 80. These are kind of hard to edit. So you have to click on them very precisely, like pretty much on the line. And now you can see that they're selected because there's a little dot at the end of each one on both sides. So we want to edit these. If once these are selected, you can go back to that design. And actually, you're going to go to Format, sorry. So you're going to go back to those tools up here, but you're going to go to Format. And you'll notice that you've got all of these options here. So we can actually open this and change them to green from here. So now you can see they were like light gray before. If I go away, see they're light gray, and now I select this, and they turn green. So we've changed our grid lines. But now I've asked you to do something else. So I asked you to change them to light green, and then I want them changed from solid to dashed. So our grid lines are still selected. We go back to this little formatting tool, pop it open, and then you'll find here that there's a dashed line. Let's see if it helps if we make it thicker for us to be able to see the dashed line. So the other way we can do this, if that's not working, is we can go over here to this little paintbrush. See if we've got options here. This isn't what we want. Chart elements, we want our grid lines, but we want them dashed. So we've got the chart area there. So you can also right click, go to Format Grid Lines, and then here, you can select dash type. So let's go this way, and there we go. So now they're dashed. So you may have to try this a couple of different ways. For this one, what we had to do was, I'll show you again. So select those grid lines. So right now you've got your chart area selected, so that's not going to work. You have to very specifically, you'll know when these little blue dots show up on each side that you've got them. Then right click, go to Format Grid Lines, and then you're going to go down here to Dash Type, and any type of dash you choose is fine, just as long as I can tell that they're dashed and not solid. So that's how you're going to format these particular grid lines. Notice that Excel takes some playing around. Sometimes you need to do some troubleshooting. Sometimes the first thing that you know how to do doesn't work. So it's good to know different ways of doing things. That's why I showed you guys how to do formulas yourself, kind of the longhand, and then as well how to do them through the functions like auto sum and things like that. Is there anything else we need to know for this one? In the grid line dialog box, set the transparency to 0. So for this one, we're going back here. So over here, our transparency is already 0. So just if yours happens to be somewhere else, right? Sometimes if you make them like super transparent like that, I can't see them at all. So having it set to 0 on this transparency here is going to be what makes them show up. So just know that this, when I talk about the grid format dialog box, this is what I'm talking about. So you can't get to this unless you select your grid lines, right click, whoops, we unselected them. Like I said, this is kind of a pesky one. You have to click really precisely. Right click, format grid lines, and then you'll have all of these options. And you can select color from here and stuff as well. Usually I do format things this way just because I have all of my options in one place. When you go up to the format, you only have, you know, like a set number of colors and a couple of other tools at your disposal. Whereas when you pull up this, you have all kinds of things. You can make them arrows, you can change the color, you can make them gradient, you can make them solid lines, you can make them disappear, you can make them more or less transparent, like if you want them to show up a little less so they don't distract from the rest of your data. We could make them lighter like that. So just know this is your toolbox for formatting your grid lines. And then we're going to talk about shapes. So I have a little video on how to insert smart art, but I'll kind of show you here. So actually, this was actually on our format tab already. So here you have this option about inserting shapes. Pop this down and you've got a little lightning bolt here. And then all you do is take your little cross there, your T, and sort of drag, hold down and drag, and then you draw it. So now you've got a little lightning bolt in there. So that's how you insert shapes in smart art. Okay, folks, I think that's pretty much all that we have to do for this homework assignment and for this week's new learnings. Practice this in your homework and email me if there are any questions. I hope y'all have a great week.